This is episode. I don't even know. I think we're at episode 12 now.
I think we're at episode 12, and this is the Corona version.
Yeah, we're
the Corona version. We're social distancing.
I'll tell you, this is how much I love you, Dave. I passed up doing a hike today just so I can do this podcast.
What? Well, I am flattered, and I had grand plans today to get stuff done, and then you messaged me, and I was like, plans are done.
Blame it on me. That's
Hanging
fine.
with Jeff.
That's fine.
Hanging with Jeff.
I like it.
Yeah.
That's good.
It's been far too long.
It's been over a year.
Far too long.
Over a year since our last podcast. I had an idea of doing a podcast today on some of the best sequels ever made in cinema history. I also had some criteria that I wanted to follow.
Okay, so we were talking about this a little bit before, and so we had a little debate about it, but
so here's my criteria. All right, at least for me, this is what I'm going to follow. Is that if you look at, like the Mission Impossible series, for example.
Right, this is what you brought up.
The first Tom Cruise Mission Impossible movie was good. And had it had the same special effects as they're able to do now in that movie would have been off the rails.
Yeah.
But then it kind of dipped off on 2 and 3. And then it didn't start picking back up again until 4 or 4. Right. And that's when it really started getting really good again. So to me, it's like it took them 3 movies to finally get it right. And so I really wouldn't consider that on my list of best sequels because it wasn't a back-to-back type movie.
Okay, I would agree with that. We're talking about a direct sequel, right?
Mm-hmm.
So they did the first movie, and then we're going to a direct sequel. And so that's what our criteria is. Right. So we had talked about a little bit before. So no Harry Potter or no Lord of the Rings.
I would, see, for me, Harry Potter kind of follows. Okay, I'm probably going to get chastised for this one. I could sit here and watch all 7 or 8 Harry Potter movies, depending on how you look at the last film being broken up into 2 parts.
Right.
I can sit there and watch all those movies back to back to back every day of the week. Okay.
Yeah, and I'm right there with you.
But to me, it really didn't start getting good until the 3rd one, Prisoner of Azkaban. And so, again, it's like, I really wouldn't include that because it's not, and I know I'm going to get chastised for this one, but I love Harry Potter, but I'm leaving Harry Potter out for me. That's just,
no, and I'm agreeing with you because, at least for me, if it's a movie based on a book series, then the source material was already there. So it wasn't technically a sequel. It's a planned series, as far as I'm concerned. So that leaves out Harry Potter, Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, although it was only 1 book and we turned it into 3. And then we got director's cuts of them, which is like, okay.
Well, see, I disagree with that because we're talking about movies. We're talking about motion pictures.
Right.
I'm not looking at books. And if we're talking about movies, you can't discount Lord of the Rings because all three of those movies were nominated for Best Picture. And I know you're not a fan of the Academy Awards, but I'm using this as a measuring stick. All 3 of those movies were nominated for Best Picture and should have won Best Picture every single time.
Correct. But it was only Return of the King that won because they were honoring the overall series. I think Fellowship won for visual effects and for music, and I think Two Towers only won, I think, for visual effects. But
Yeah,
then,
and if you look at what won Best Picture those years, I can't tell you, but I mean,
right,
Lord of the Rings should
exactly,
have won.
right.
It's a better movie involved.
But see, and this is where I have the issue is they knew a third movie was coming out, that the sequel trilogy was already planned.
Well,
And
yeah,
so,
but you can make that argument for the original Superman movie with Richard Donner. I mean,
true.
he
No,
knew there was a
true.
second Superman
True.
movie. In fact, they
True.
filmed both of those at the same time.
True. But I think the criteria should be that, and let us know in the comments if you think that if I'm right or Jeff's right, or if we're both wrong. But I think it should be like we were talking about earlier. I think it should be that we did the first movie. We want to see how it does. If it does well, then we'll do a second one. That's why I think the Harry Potter movies, Lord of the Rings, some argument could be made for the Jason Bourne trilogy, quadrilogy, whatever you want to call it, because there was source material to base it on. And so it was already like, we've got this many Jason Bourne movies. We know that there's going to be 7 Harry Potter books. And so there was already a planned thing.
So let me throw a monkey in there.
Okay.
Right? So look at National Lampoon, for example.
Okay,
so,
good point.
So this is kind of where I'm going with this. All right. So you had National Lampoon's Vacation, which was a classic movie. All right. Everybody loves Vacation.
Right.
And then they make European Vacation, which was an absolute steaming pile of European garbage.
Right.
And then they make Christmas Vacation, which is considered another classic. Okay.
Oh yeah.
But again, they have this steaming pile of poo in between 2 classic movies. I wouldn't count that in my list of all-time best sequels.
I wouldn't either. I would say that we had 2 really good standalone movies.
Right, because they weren't back to back.
Correct. And
that's what I'm looking at.
Because to me, again, with the sequels, we did a first one. Maybe we have a continuing story that we want to do, but we want to see how this first one does. And so, yeah, if you have a stinker right in the middle and then you have a good one right after that, I agree. It's not a sequel. So I don't know. That's what I think the criteria should be. That it was.
You can have your list, and I can have mine. We can have
okay. I'm right there with you. And I have a superhero series in my list.
I think I know where you're going with this one.
I think you and I are kind of on the same page. It's probably on yours as well. Yeah. But so we'll see if we agree at the end. We'll see if we don't. And hopefully we'll have a little bit of lively debate.
Sure.
Going into this. So
absolutely. So
yeah.
All right, without further ado, here's my first movie on the list of all-time greatest sequels ever made, and that is Superman 2.
Okay, I agree with you, but with a but, because those were filmed simultaneously.
Right, but it was called a sequel.
Right, it's still a sequel. No, it is still a sequel. But going with my criteria of, okay, let's see how well this does. It was already planned out. And the reason why it took us 30 years to get the Richard Donner cut of that movie is that the Salkinds, who owned the rights at the time, did not like Richard Donner.
Well,
they had clashes.
And I'll tell you what, though, looking at the Richard Donner, I wasn't a fan of the Donner cut.
Well, the problem with the Donner cut is it's 30 years too late. No, I'm right there with you.
Well, some of the effects in them, like, this is corny.
Oh yeah, no, it was bad. It was really rushed out. It was.
You can tell.
They were using unused takes and.
Yeah.
And they were using audition footage along with the other stuff because a lot of the stuff had been lost, and so it's rough.
The original theatrical version of that, I thought,
was pretty good. It was.
What do you got?
But I would agree with you. So if we're going to start off with superheroes, I'm going to start off with Batman Begins and The Dark Knight.
There you go.
I mean, and then we could put in The Dark Knight Rises, but if we're talking about direct sequels,
Man.
and you talk about direct sequels where the first movie was great, and then the second one was like, holy crap, that blew the first one out of the water. You can't get any better than The Dark Knight.
You can't. I mean, come on, Heath Ledger, the Joker. I mean,
oh yeah.
I mean, some could argue that's probably why he's not alive today, is because he threw himself into that role.
Well, and that's the thing, is he, as far as I'm concerned, it's some crazy guy they hired. And they just filmed him.
Yeah.
That was not Heath Ledger. So it was
that was an awesome
brilliant, brilliant movie.
When I can walk out of a movie theater wanting more.
Oh yeah.
That's when you know you really have something there. My second movie.
Second.
Godfather 2.
Oh, no argument there. No argument there. And it's funny you bring that up because last night I just finished watching the first one and we'll be watching the second one today.
There you go.
Pure brilliance.
The first two movies. Okay, so I liked all three. And
I did as well.
The first two, obviously Best Picture winners, but the third one wrapped up that whole story pretty nicely, I thought. But you can't get any better than the first two Godfather movies, man. I mean, that's just...
No, you can't. And the thing that I love about the first two, for sure, is that they can stand on their own as an individual movie.
Yes.
They're enhanced by watching them together. Whereas the third one, you kind of have to watch it in the whole grand scheme of things. You have to watch it as a trilogy because it's not super strong on its own.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
But as a trilogy, it's freaking brilliant. And I know you have this on your list as well, but going with the movies that aren't super strong on their own, but pretty good in the series, I'm going to say, and you had brought it up earlier, so I'm kind of stealing it, but Rocky 1 and 2.
Yeah.
And I had because I'm lonely, I did a
you don't look too lonely. You got a bunch of Star Wars masks behind you there.
I know, I've been busy. I've been super busy getting helmets done. But same thing with The Dark Knight being almost better than Batman Begins.
Right.
Rocky 2. And you had brought this up, so I apologize if I'm stealing this from your list, but
actually it wasn't on my list. I left it off.
Okay. Because Rocky 2, oh my gosh, it excels more, than Rocky 1 did.
I'll tell you what killed me for the original Rocky movie is I follow Sylvester Stallone on Instagram, and he did a Q&A with his fans, and one person asked him if he had to change anything about the original Rocky movie, which won Best Picture.
It did.
And he said that if I were to change one thing about the original Rocky movie would be the ending fight between Rocky and Apollo Creed. There's no audience. There's no audience. There's nobody back there. There was an empty arena for a majority of that fight. So if you go back and you watch it, you'll see empty chairs out there. And he goes, to me, that killed the atmosphere. He goes, it killed it for me. He goes, that would be the one thing that I would change. He goes, that's my one regret when looking at that movie. And if you're watching that movie, like to me, so you have Rocky. So for me, the original Rocky, it's Rocky 2, Rocky Balboa, which was number 6.
Technically, it was number 6. It was number 6.
So you had 2 and 6 are both of my favorites, and then 3 kind of is like one of those era-defining movies I liked. And then
so
you
was
have
4.
The original Rocky. 4 was good, and if you didn't have 4, you wouldn't have the Creed movies right now.
Correct.
Because I guess technically you could have the Creed movies, but I thought both the Creed movies, we're not counting those as Rocky movies, but I think, you would not have, Apollo Creed died in 4. Spoiler alert.
Yeah. I'm going to say right now, we don't say spoiler alert a lot on this show. If we have to say spoiler alert to Godfather 2 or
Rocky
to
4.
Rocky 4, that's your fault.
Right.
The movie, the Rocky 4 came out when I was in high school. I was like a freshman in high school, and that movie came out. And so if you haven't watched it in the 30 plus years,
I'm sure
actually
there's some
more than
people
that.
out there who haven't, but that's okay.
Yeah. If you haven't watched it in that amount of time, that's your fault.
Next one on my list, Terminator 2.
Okay. I'm not going to argue with you on that one.
Terminator 2.
It was, no, I agree. They set a beautiful groundwork.
Better than the original.
Oh, for sure.
Better than the original.
For sure. Well, I look at it this way. It's it kind of shows you what a budget will do. Because right. Terminator was kind of a low budget movie. Fantastic movie, not taking anything away from that.
No, right.
But then Terminator 2, I mean, that's a big budget movie.
That was awesome.
And
that
so
was such a good movie. My only complaint about Terminator 2 was the Guns N' Roses song they used as the title track for that didn't belong. I tell you, just to digress shortly on that song or that movie came out right around the time when Van Halen came out with their For Unlawful Carnage album.
Yeah.
And they had a song on that album called Judgment Day.
Oh yeah, it's a good song.
That song would have been perfect for Terminator 2. Why they didn't do it that way, I have no idea. Why that song, You Could Be Mine by Guns N' Roses, great song. I just didn't feel like it fit the movie.
So my next one on my list is Aliens.
Oh, yes.
Because Alien was brilliant. Aliens only made it.
You stole my thunder. I had that on my list.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's all right though. That's okay.
We didn't know each other's list.
That's
so
all right.
Just everybody, we didn't know each other's lists going into this. But I was like, oh yeah, Alien and Aliens.
Oh man.
Hands down.
Oh, Aliens. That was such. There's a lot of people who still consider that as the greatest sequel ever made.
Yeah, and it only made Alien that much better.
Yeah.
Because of, Ripley not wanting to go back and her trying to deal with the fact that she's been hypersleep for 57 years and
Aliens. God, God. Yeah, that's such a great movie.
And I just got to say, she's more badass than any one of those Marines that went with her.
Right?
I just love the fact she didn't want to go back and she had a meltdown. She was kind of panicking, even when talking about what she experienced with the Marines.
Yeah.
She was panicking. But the moment they got attacked, she went right into protection mode.
Yeah, that was the mother instinct in her. Yeah, that was. That was good. That's a good take right there, man. Aliens.
Yeah.
I am going to. I'm going to throw out one here that I'm going to say is probably one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life.
Okay.
And I'm putting this over Godfather Part 2.
Ooh, okay. This is high praise for whatever this movie is. I have no idea.
Empire Strikes Back.
Oh, okay. Again, no arguments from me.
Come on now.
On that. Oh, yeah. No, this is Empire Strikes Back is probably one of, I agree 100%, probably one of the best sequels ever. Okay, so my next on the list, and I love this movie. It's one of my guilty pleasure movies that I could sit down and watch it no matter when. Even if I had just turned it off, I would go back and watch it. John Wick 2.
Oh, yeah.
John Wick 2. And I love the fact that it begins right where the other one ends.
Yeah.
Oh, such a good, that whole trilogy has been fantastic.
there's very few actors out there who can say that they've been part of great franchises. Harrison Ford is one that comes to mind. Star Wars, Indiana Jones. Keanu Reeves is another. The
Yeah,
Matrix,
for sure.
the Matrix movies, the John Wick now.
Mm-hmm.
They're filming Matrix 4. He's coming out. The Bill and Ted movies. They're finally getting another Bill and Ted movie.
Yeah, that we're supposed to get this fall, but depending on how the Rona all does, we'll see what happens.
Oh, that does. But and then the John Wick movies. I was just watching I watched the original a couple of days ago, actually, and it was such a good movie.
Such a good movie. It's a brilliant premise, and so, again, when you get excited to hear that another one of these movies is coming out, it gets super exciting.
Yeah.
At least for me, and I can't wait for John Wick 4 to come out.
Oh, I hear you.
We'll probably get it in another 2 years, but
I have one.
So good.
I have one that's kind of along those same lines, and that's Kill Bill 2, Volume 2.
Okay, people are gonna hate me.
Oh.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen Kill Bill 2?
I've never seen it.
What?
I've never seen it. And the thing is I love Tarantino's movies. I love my current favorite Tarantino movie, which has surpassed Django Unchained, which I freaking love that movie.
Yeah, that's good.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood is just it's beautiful. I freaking love it. So, but I've never seen Kill Bill Volume 1, Volume 2. So I guess that's what I'm watching today.
I was never really a big Brad Pitt fan. I mean, I like some of his movies, but World War Z was a good one, Brad Pitt.
Oh, it was a really good movie.
But Once Upon a Time in Hollywood made me a Brad Pitt fan.
Oh yeah, his relationship with Leonardo DiCaprio in that movie is beautiful.
Quentin Tarantino is like the Da Vinci of our time, man. And I'm stealing somebody's quote. I know I've seen that somewhere. What he did, his take on that night when Sharon Tate and all those people were murdered in their home.
Mm-hmm.
His take on that. I mean, they go busting into Leonardo DiCaprio's house. Leonardo DiCaprio sitting in the pool with his headphones on.
Right, can't hear a thing.
And those three people, they're busting his house. Brad Pitt just got done smoking a cigarette. He's higher than a kite.
Yeah. Well, he was smoking. PCP is what he was doing.
Right.
And so, he's higher than a kite. And I love the fact that he's like, hey, are you real? I'm as real as it gets. Oh, such a good movie. The whole movie is great.
I love that movie. That is such a good movie. So what do you got? What's your next one?
My next one, I wanted to put this on there, but I can't because we've already broken our rule, though.
Yeah, well.
We've already broken our rule with the Godfather movies because Godfather 1 and 2 are really the first and second half of the Godfather book. So they were basing it off of source material. So,
well, that was your rule.
That was my rule, and we already broke it because I agreed with you that Godfather 2, brilliant sequel. So I'm going to say the Bourne movies.
Oh yeah.
The Bourne Identity and then the Bourne Supremacy. Oh, so good. And again, like John Wick, I love the fact that they, like a true sequel, where they bleed right into each other.
Those Bourne movies those are the movies that I hate the fact that, well, they're more than likely done telling the story. I wanted more. I wanted more from it.
Yeah.
I just don't want 4. I wanted 8.
Right. Because they totally left Jason Bourne open for a sequel.
Okay, I have one here. So I'm a huge fan of the spaghetti westerns, Clint Eastwood.
Okay, right there with you.
The Good, Bad, and Ugly.
Yeah.
The Man with No Name. The Man with No Name.
Mm-hmm.
That was actually a trilogy. And Good,
It
Bad,
was.
Ugly was the third movie.
It was the third
trilogy.
because you had a fistful of dollars, a few dollars more, and then the good, the bad, and the ugly. And some could make an argument that Pale Rider also kind of falls in with that it was technically the fourth movie. Because he plays a character called the Preacher, but still a man with no name.
With no name.
But no, I would totally agree with that. Freaking love it. Yeah, those movies are so good.
Yeah,
Sergio Leone was so good of a director.
Yep.
Take a little tangent. And his final spaghetti western was Once Upon a Time in the Old West.
Yeah, another. Oh God, that
Oh,
was.
such a good movie. Such a good movie. If you guys haven't watched Once Upon a Time in the Old West and you like westerns, I highly recommend it.
Yep.
Brilliantly shot. It's got a glorious absence of music in certain spots.
I'm gonna throw one in here. It's Dawn of the Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
Those last three
totally going there with you.
Those last three Planet of the Apes movies they made were epic.
Were so good. And you know what? Strangely enough, I know that the technology was better, that the visual effects were better with the new ones that came in there.
Yeah.
But they roll beautifully right into the first two Planet of the Apes movies.
Yeah.
They roll beautifully into that.
Yeah.
And so you know what, gonna go right with you on that because, yeah, Dawn of the Planet of the Apes was freaky good.
Mm-hmm.
When the apes are better actors than the actual people in the movie, that's saying something for the technology.
I mean, Andy Serkis. I mean, come on. I mean, the guy's. We talk about great character actors. I mean, that guy can.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That guy can play anything. Sure. I mean, he played the bad guy in Age of Ultron.
Oh yeah. Oh, they just so good. Although I gotta say, I would still love to see a Claw movie, a Ulysses S. Claw. Seeing him in Black Panther.
Yeah.
And how he was, it was like, I would just follow him around.
There's a lot of standalone movies. There's lots of ways they could have broken off and done their own thing. I mean, look, I have. There's so many. When it comes to superhero movies, there's so many different ways you can go with it. When you look at the Spider-Man movies, for example, I thought the first two Tobey Maguire Spider-Man movies, Spider-Man 1 and then Spider-Man 2, were awesome. Spider-Man 3 was one of those ones where they just completely
went off the rails.
They were drunk with that one, and it buzzed me out because that was Venom was in that, and I was expecting something so much better. But Spider-Man 2, the Tobey Maguire version, Spider-Man 2, was awesome.
Oh no, and I would agree with that. And I would say, I don't know if you're adding that to your list as best sequels.
Yes.
But I would agree with you there. The third one, to me, struck me as Sam Raimi woke up the day before they were shooting and was like, "Oh crap, we're shooting a movie tomorrow. We probably should get a script together." And then they just crap something out.
Real quick, best Spider-Man. Who has the best Spider-Man?
Who is the best Spider-Man?
Yeah, real quick. Yep.
Tom Holland.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Totally Tom Holland. Not to take anything away from Andrew Garfield or from Tobey Maguire. They were great. But seeing Spider-Man back in the MCU and interacting with all of the other characters and actually having someone that's young play Spider-Man is fantastic. So he nails who Peter Parker is as a person. He nails Spider-Man as a person. He's freaking fantastic.
Yeah, I agree.
He's the best Spider-Man.
Do you have anything else on your list? Do you have more?
Yeah, I have Star Trek on there, Star Trek 1 and 2. The new one, the Bad Robot version. Because the original Star Trek, of the original cast, the first movie, oh boy. I mean, I guess we could count it. Their first movie was, it was rough.
You have me in shock right here, dude. So you have the newer Star Trek 2 version over the Wrath of Khan.
Well, I part of that is because I hated the first Star Trek movie.
But the Wrath
And
of
so
Khan. But if we're talking about greatest sequels ever made, the Wrath of
I
Khan
know.
is not on your
And
list.
no, it is, but the problem is for me, I've expunged the very first Star Trek movie, Star Trek the motion picture. I've expunged it. I don't even own it.
What's the rule of thumb with the Star Trek movies? It's all the even ones are the best ones.
The evens are the best.
All the odd ones just cut out.
Right, and Simon Pegg would slam on that. He would make a big point. Who played Scotty in the new versions?
Right.
And he's like, I guess I need to stop slamming on it because technically, the new version, the reboot of it, was at 11. It was an odd version, but it was good. And so the reason why I love Wrath of Khan, but in my head, it's the first one in the series.
Okay.
But it's a great sequel. But the first movie was such a dumpster fire and boring and horrible that I've expunged it so far from my brain that I don't count Wrath of Khan as a sequel. I count it as the first one.
Okay.
And that's why I say it. And then the third one's pretty good, but not as strong. And then the fourth one obviously is completely brilliant. The fifth one is a dumpster fire because Shatner directed it. And then the sixth one is absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
So that's why I have a hard time with it. But the new ones, that's why I'm counting it. Because the first one was very strong and the second one was really good. So I don't know.
All right. Yeah.
Argue with me down in the comments.
I don't. I can't disagree with that. I really don't have any more movies on my list as far as greatest sequels are concerned. I mean, to me, when you have a sequel that surpasses the original, and which would for me would be Terminator 2, Godfather 2, Empire Strikes Back, The Dark Knight. Those are the ones that really stand out to me as the greatest sequels ever made. And I'm talking about back-to-back movies. This movie, the second movie, is much better than the first.
Oh, and I agree. And Aliens is right there for me as well. Right. Where, you almost forget that there was a first one. And so, you know what? Going with that logic, then I'm going to put Wrath of Khan in there.
There you go.
Because, like I was saying, it expunged the first movie for me.
Right. Well, the first movie basically expunged itself. But Wrath of Khan, that was
it totally surpassed it. So, and that's what a good sequel should do, is it should almost make you forget that there was another movie.
Well, unless you're talking about movies like The Godfather.
True.
Because, I mean, you can't. I'm not saying Godfather 2 is better than the original Godfather. But as a sequel, that movie can stand on its own. It totally can stand on its own.
And with Godfather 2, I would rather watch the De Niro stuff than the Pacino stuff.
Yeah.
Because we'd already seen Pacino rise up to power. I wanted to see more of how Vito came to power.
Mm-hmm.
And De Niro did such a good job capturing Vito Corleone as a young guy that it was like, I want to see more of that story and less of Michael's story, although Michael's story was freaking brilliant as well.
Yeah.
The things that he's going and you're seeing the rise of the Corleone family, but the demise of the Michael Corleone family.
Right.
So it was a good contrast and such a good series.
All three of them were awesome. The way they ended it was spot on. I think it was it's kind of sad in a way because I mean you can tell from the beginning of 3 to the end of 3 where Michael Corleone dies by himself, sitting on a chair in Italy, and there was that period of time in between. It almost kind of makes you wonder what happened in that period of time. From
Yeah.
when he was an old frail man and he dies by himself from right after his daughter is murdered on the steps of
Spoilers.
the opera. Spoiler alert.
But again, if you haven't seen The Godfather 3 by now, or any of the movies that we've mentioned by now,
Yeah, I think you need to up your game a little bit.
Yeah, you got bigger problems in your life. But yeah, no, that was I think a beautiful contrast where he is literally alone.
Yeah.
No one around him.
Yep.
And he just dies a quiet death, and how he's kind of just destroyed himself as a human being. It's just a brilliant story. Brilliant story. There's so many good movies out there.
There is.
Yeah,
there is.
Go watch them.
It's rare that you get a sequel that surpasses the original.
So yeah, let's plan this again.
All
Not
right,
for
dude.
another year. Let's do it in a week.
All right.
Or two.
I'm always game.
So. All right. Well,
All
we'll
right,
talk later. And as always, I'm David.
I'm Jeff.
And we will talk movies
Peace.
another time with you.
All right.
Ciao.